It is June 11, 1988. Thousands are gathered at Uhuru Park, attending a crusade where Reinhard Bonke is speaking. A few kilometers away, another meeting is happening. A crowd is gathering at Kawangware, listening to a young and charismatic, self-proclaimed prophetess. She claims to hear from God and has power to heal the deaf, the cripple, the blind, and people with all sorts of diseases and life problems are gathered hoping for a miracle. It is almost 1 p.m. and the faithful are singing a popular Swahili hymn, Mungu ni mwema, when suddenly a tall bearded man dressed in long white robe and a turban on his head appears and walks barefooted. The prophetess had previously promised the faithful that a special guest with a vital message would visit them. With the visit of this strange-looking man, the crowd is mesmerized. The man walks towards the crowd and the prophetess walks with him side by side. Suddenly, the crowd begins to shout, Yesu, Jesus. The prophetess tries to take control of the crowd by claiming 20 cripples had been healed, but to no avail. People continue to shout. The strange guest whispers something in the ears of the prophetess, to which she announces to the overwhelmed crowd that Jesus would like to speak to them. The man addresses the crowd in Swahili, and the eager crowd is silent, not wanting to miss what this special guest has to say. The man begins by telling them that the Kenyan people are blessed, and especially those in that meeting. He gives accolades to their prophetess and tells the crowd to listen to every word she says, for she is God's true representative on earth, and she would unite people of all tribes and nations. He then warns them that the end of the world is near and they should stay firm in faith. After the speech, another Indian man offers to drive the special guest to a bus stop, to which after alighting the car, he claims that the man vanished. This leaves the crowd confused. If it was really Jesus, why did he need a taxi to a bus stop and not ascend to heaven? The whole event caused uproar in the congregation, but the prophetess assured them that it was indeed Jesus and he had ascended to heaven. The events that happened here at Kawangware would soon be known in the rest of the country, and this would cause an uproar. It was not after some years that the prophetess would try to distance herself from the fake Jesus incident, dismissing the controversy that it was an Indian man who had come for prayers just like the rest of the congregants. However, this was just a damage control, for everyone who had attended the events knows what had happened. The young prophetess was Mary Akatsa, the founder of the Jerusalem Church of Christ, and this was one of her many controversies. Mary Akatsa was a self-proclaimed prophetess who claimed that God called her to ministry when she was 11 years old. Her claims of prophecies and healing powers drew her huge following of curious followers who believed everything she said. Her peak in ministry was in the 1980s and early 1990s, at a time when the charismatic movement was sweeping among the evangelicals. During the 1992 and 1997 general elections, she prayed for Moi's presidency, which birthed a friendship with the late president, that at her dad's funeral, it is said that it was Moi who provided security. Many politicians sought her prayers before the elections, and at times she would even be involved in campaigning for some with her influence in Nairobi. Mary Akatsa was a controversial person, to say the least. She's known for publicly slapping, whipping, pinching, scolding, and punching her adult followers for whatever she deemed indiscipline. She did not tolerate latecomers to her services, and members who committed infidelity in marriages were forced to carry their wives on their back within the public shopping center as an act of public shaming. During her so-called healing services and exorcisms, she would slap members with Bible, loudly shouting the words, Riswa. Her church services started at 10 a.m. and ended at 8 p.m. and there were no chairs, so the congregants sat on the ground. Mary claimed that when Jesus taught, people sat down, and that's why she did not need chairs for her congregation. Also, during the service, men and women sat separately. On March 17, 1998, Mary was again a subject of public controversy for officiating a marriage between a man and his dead wife. a couple he had previously worked for as house help before her fame. However, the Registrar of Marriages at Attorney General's chamber nullified the marriage, citing that marriage was a contract between two people, and since the dead could not consent, it was not possible. However, in 2021, she once again officiated another bizarre wedding between a woman and her dead husband. Over the years, Mary accumulated properties around the country, and even though she was rich in every way, she lived a meek life at Kawangware, even though her children lived in the leafy Karen. She was philanthropic and usually gave money and food items to the needy, even though at times it came at the expense of degrading and humiliating the recipients. At Kawangware, she is known for helping rescue a number of young people from the life of crime, and she was popular in the area. Just like many false prophets, there was a lot of mythology in Mary's life. She claims that her in-laws bewitched her and that she had died, but just like Jesus, 3 days later she was resurrected. It is such fables and myths that keeps the followers with itching ears stayed in the beliefs of their false leaders. Sadly, on October 26, 2024, Mary Akatsa passed on, with reports saying that she had protracted kidney problems. The police managed to carry sacks of money that were found in her house. Mary Akatsa is a cautionary tale. She is one of the many people who claim to hear from God and have healing powers. People who base their ministries on these things, which attract many of their undiscerning followers who have itching ears for the myths and fables, and not for the simple gospel of Christ and Him crucified. In this country, many men and women have risen up with similar or more claims, and sadly, they have managed to deceive many who do not read their Bibles or discern what their leaders say or do. Sadly, the false gospel and the counterfeit Christianity continue ravaging this country, where these conmen and women manage to deceive many, leading them astray. When Christ commissioned the disciples with the good news, we see that it happened in the early church where the gospel of Christ was preached. People repented of their sins, and many believed in Christ alone for their salvation. The apostles did not need gymnastics or controversial stunts to draw people to Christ. They preached the simple gospel, and it was enough. This is why I would encourage you, if you're not a member of a solid biblical church, I would urge you to find one and become a member. Under faithful elders who are qualified according to the Bible, you will be guided and grow in your faith through the means of grace provided in the church. If you follow one of these wolves, I would urge you to run away, for these men and women will lead you astray and lead your soul to damnation.